when I think about the three pillars of something that would be your anchor, a foundation to drive you into the future, to live a big dream, to live a big life, a mindset, what you think about, you bring about. You know, as a man thinketh, so is he. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said that if you can determine what a man shall think, you never have to concern yourself with what he will do. He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, you never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. If there's no door, his very nature will demand one. And I think that in many cases, governments and religious institutions have really unwittingly crushed the dreams and aspirations and the visions that people had of themselves. Not all, but a lot of them. And I think it's incumbent upon the individual to take responsibility, to develop yourself, to expand your mind and your vision, to seek out experiences. You know, Helen Keller said life should be a daring adventure, it's boring. And start to dream. What do you want? What do you really want for your life? I remember going to Auschwitz and walking down the halls in the Nazi German concentration camps and seeing the pictures of men and women who had dreams. And these people were exterminated. And one of the things that I heard in my mind when I reflected on a book written by Viktor Frankl, who was there, he said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost any how. And he talked about the people who were able to survive the inexpressible cruelties of Nazism. Those who either believed in God or had someone that they loved that they were determined to see, or some cause bigger than themselves. And in my case, my goal was to buy my mother a home. That was my big dream. And that caused me to read things and to listen to things, to fuel my imagination. And then to develop my skills to becoming a voice of influence. And the other thing that's important is creating a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. And it started with a man, Mr. Washington, who said, a high school teacher, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. It could start with one person, and then it goes from there. I started associating with people who were doing what I wanted to do. I joined a multi-level marketing group called Best Line Products. When I heard the voice of a guy that when he spoke, it seemed like he was talking to me. I was in a hotel at a convention and Bill Bailey spoke and he was selling this dream. I didn't even know the products, but I wanted to be a part of it. And what I found, and one of the great things about multi-level marketing, is that it puts you in a community of other like-minded people. I think that's the value and the power of associations of different kinds. Associating with people who share your values, associating with people, like-minded people who have dreams, who have goals that they're working on, and being in that community. Studies indicate that one goose can fly 40% further in formation with other geese than can ever fly by itself. In fact, I'm thinking about a scientific study where they exposed some rats to electronic shock, and after they increased it, it killed them instantly. But then they put these rats in groupings with other sharks, with other rats, and then what happened was that they continued to increase the shocks of these rats, and they increased it over 10 times more, and it took far more to kill them than what it took with just one. And so there's something about being in a community of people who share your dream, who hold you accountable, who challenge you, who call you out, who can see what you can't see that you have within you, and inspire you to step up. Of Ebony Magazine, the late John H. Johnson, who started that with a $500 loan from his mother. And he said something in his book called Making It Against All Odds. There's no defense against an excellence that meets a pressing public need. And I suggest to you, one, work on yourself. To me, I think there are three pillars of what's required in order to carve out your place in this global economy. There are many steps, but there are three that I think that's indispensable. One is working on your mind. Be ye not conformed to this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The second is of having a mindset and willing to discipline yourself, to make the sacrifice, to engage in ongoing self-study for self-growth and development, developing your communication skills. I can hear Mr. Washington now say, Mr. Brown, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. Nelson Mandela said, if you speak from your mind, you speak in a language that a man can understand. But when you speak from your heart, you speak in his language. And so my goal in teaching people how to create mass appeal, how to change lives, that you have to change yourself. It starts with you. And then you begin to see from your experience how you can begin to impact and influence others and be a voice of change. And that ability really will allow you to carve out a place for yourself in the marketplace. And the methods and the techniques, the simplicity of how you language what you say. Einstein said that genius is the capacity to take the complicated and make it simple. And so when you are creating change and mass appeal, keeping it simple, but being the message that you bring, and loving it, and standing in your power, and realize that you're here for a reason. I believe to make a difference. I believe to do a great work. I believe to live a life, as Jim Rohn said, when you live your life, he said, your life can be either an example or it's a warning of what not to do, or an example of what to do and what's possible. 85% of them reach their goals because of their attitude, 15% because of their aptitude. Now, to me, that was big, because I was in special education. I was labeled educable mentally retarded. So I said, whoa, that means I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. That if I have a winner's attitude, that I've got a shot, that I could make it, that I don't have to live a life of being average. I wanted to live a life of meaning, of purpose. Being adopted, I wanted to do something for my mother. And so by listening to motivational messages and reading on a regular basis, it really taught me the value of using your time to work on yourself, to develop yourself, to really restructure your belief system for what was possible for you. It really expanded my vision of myself. And so to me, that's what it means about mass appeal, because I was working on myself. Then I started sharing it with others, and I noticed a difference in them. And I shared with them the things that I was doing because they saw the difference in me. And it's been said that a career is something you love so much you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. So as I talked with and shared with my friends what I was doing and what was possible for them, I eventually evolved into this life of where I am. And as a result, I carved out a market for myself. And because this is my passion, this is what I've spent the majority of my life doing, I've developed a level of expertise, a level of strength and power and reputation in this area that created a demand for myself. To me, one of the most important things and the first step in changing lives is to have a program for yourself. When I started on this path, that was what my goal was to change me. Given my circumstances, I think that, psychologists say that we create a mental blueprint between the ages of 1 and 5, that between that time we determine what's available for us and what's not available for us. And so given my circumstances, being born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida, I became interested in a path of developing myself. I remember shining the shoes of Mr. Swiderski, this man that my mother worked for, very wealthy, on Miami Beach. She cleaned his home and she cooked for the family and kept the children. And he listened to motivational messages. Unbeknownst to me, that was programming my mind, and it created a thirst within me to get on this path. I remember listening to Earl Nightingale, who said, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. And so to me, reading became an out. It became a tool that I used to develop myself. And not just reading for enjoyment, but reading for personal growth, reading to look at those things that I read and to apply them in my lives. And I would read sometimes at night from 60 or 100 pages a night, sometimes a whole book. And then I would underline the book and I would think about them, I would memorize them, and then I would apply them. I would try them out. Because one of the things he said, they did a study of some top achievers and leaders around the world, over 3,000, to find out what was the common denominator among them that enabled them to reach their goals.